She always dreamed of a picture-perfect life. A house with a white picket fence, 4 children, an ideal husband, and a garden full of blooming roses. He was certain he had given her everything. But beneath the glossy surface of happiness, cracks had already begun to spread. The first appeared in a child's drawing, filled with hearts and the wrong name. The second, in kisses hidden behind the backs of family members. Then came the real unraveling. Betrayal, lies, hollow excuses, and one rotten secret after another. He didn't scream. He didn't seek revenge in the heat of the moment. He watched, gathered evidence, endured, and when the time came, he laid the truth bare at a dinner that was meant to bring the family together. They never returned home, but that was only the beginning. Now the real question is, what remains of a man when he realizes his entire life was a lie, and the love he spent years building was nothing but someone else's performance? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watch this video. I value every one of your comments. So let's get started. I used to think that conflict was just another thread in the fabric of marriage, that everyone harbored quiet cracks behind the facade of perfect family photos and polite dinner conversation. But I was wrong. Some relationships don't just weather storms, they're hollow from the beginning, and when they collapse, the fallout cuts deep and wide. My name is Adrian Blackwood. I was 38 when my life fell apart. For years, I took pride in what I'd created, both in my personal life and in my career. Over a dozen years, I'd grown Blackwood Builders and Company from a small-time operation into a flourishing construction business. There was a deep satisfaction in seeing my name emblazoned across the sides of trucks as they rumbled toward job sites. It gave me a sense of permanence, like I wasn't just building homes but forging something lasting. I let myself believe that the same solidity existed in my own home. My wife, Evelyn, had always wanted the quintessential suburban dream, a pristine house with a manicured yard, room enough for our 4 kids, 3 boys and a little girl, and a tidy white picket fence to wrap it all up like a gift. It looked like happiness, the kind you see in magazines. At least, that's what I convinced myself. But beneath the glossy surface, rot had already taken hold. It all started to unravel on an otherwise forgettable Tuesday. I came home exhausted, dust from the day's labor still clinging to my clothes. I was hoping for a quiet evening, maybe to collapse on the couch, or if I had the energy, play catch with my youngest son. But I hadn't even crossed the threshold when my daughter, Lila, all of 4 years old, darted up to me with a triumphant smile, waving a drawing in my face like it was a gold medal. "Daddy, look what I made," she beamed. I knelt down to take a look. The picture was chaotic but sweet. A crooked little car, 2 stick figures with huge grins, and a winding road scrawled beneath them. Above their heads were names, Mommy and Uncle Damien, with hearts floating all around. My stomach lurched. Uncle Damien, my father's youngest brother, 42, jobless, and always chasing a shortcut, had no business being in a picture like that. Not with my wife, not alone. I kept my voice light, forcing a smile. "That's a great drawing, sweetheart." Then I asked, as gently as I could manage, "Why are Mommy and Uncle Damien riding in a car together?" She gave a tiny shrug. "I saw them in your room," she said plainly. "Mommy told me not to tell you because you'd get mad." My heart skipped. "In our room?" I asked, keeping my tone steady even as my insides turned to ice. "When was that?" Lila didn't have a clear answer, just that it was in the morning. She said Mommy distracted her with cartoons, and when she asked if Uncle Damien was spending the night, Evelyn got nervous and sent her out. She said all this in that innocent sing-song way only kids have, but her words knocked something loose inside me. I remembered coming home one afternoon around then and noticing the bed had fresh sheets, even though laundry day was still 2 days away. I'd asked Evelyn, and she laughed, saying she was just in a cleaning mood. Now, I wasn't laughing. When I confronted her, Evelyn dismissed the drawing as childish make-believe. She called Lila a little daydreamer and accused me of inventing drama. But something in the air shifted. It felt like there was a new coldness in the house, creeping into corners like mold. When I asked about Damien, she gave me vague answers, sometimes laced with sarcasm, sometimes with this unsettling smirk, like she held the upper hand. She never flat out denied anything, just smiled that infuriating, knowing smile. A few weeks later, we hosted our annual family reunion. Typical Blackwood affair. Hectic, loud, crowded. Parents, cousins, siblings. It was a full house. Our backyard was perfect for it, with a fire pit, open lawn, and space for the kids to run wild. Everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves. Everyone but me. Since Lila's drawing, I'd been on edge. And then Damien arrived. His shirt was open halfway, tattoos on display like he was some kind of rock star. He strolled in like he owned the place, swaggering and grinning. "Hey, nephew," he said, slapping me on the shoulder. "Long time." I forced a polite smile, though every instinct screamed to throw him out. Instead, I watched. Carefully. Quietly. Every time Evelyn passed, Damien leaned close, whispering something that made her laugh. She'd brush her hair behind her ear, touch his arm casually. If you blinked, you might miss it. But I didn't blink. From across the yard, I saw them near the fence, partially hidden behind the daisies my mother had planted last spring. They were talking in hushed tones, heads close together. Damien wore that same cocky grin. Evelyn looked away shyly, blushing like a teenager. Then he put his hand on her shoulder. It wasn't long, but it wasn't casual. "Having fun?" I called out, stepping around the flowers into full view. Evelyn jerked slightly. Damien didn't flinch. "Of course," he said smoothly. "You throw a great party." Evelyn shot me a look, equal parts annoyed and defensive. "I was just telling Damien about a friend of mine who's hiring," she said, "since he's between jobs." I stared at him. "Is that right?" He didn't miss a beat. "Yep. Time for a fresh start. Evelyn's been really supportive, maybe more than you realize." His words were barbed, coated in false sweetness. Rage swelled inside me, but I held it down. Barely. I met his gaze and forced my face into something that resembled a smile. Always happy to help family, Damien. But something about the way Evelyn looked at him that afternoon said everything. The frost in her stare wasn't accidental. It was the final nail in the coffin of her charade as a devoted wife. The admiration in her eyes, once concealed behind polite smiles, now stood exposed. She wasn't hiding it anymore. And that realization cut deep, stinging in a way that left me simmering with a mix of insult and fury. For days afterward, I wrestled with one relentless thought. Was I imagining it, or had everything truly shifted? Suddenly, Evelyn turned critical. About everything. My work schedule, my tone of voice, the way I handled laundry. Every little thing became ammunition. Meanwhile, her phone became a near-permanent fixture in her hand. Anytime I reached for it, she bristled, snapping out a sharp, "Respect my privacy." Then one morning, she slipped, ever so slightly. As casually as if she were talking about the weather, she mentioned Damien had stopped by. "He came over to grab that old black jacket of yours, the one you never wear," she said, brushing it off like it was nothing. I told him it was fine. My pulse jumped. Why would Damien be rummaging through my closet on a weekday, mid-morning, unless his visit had nothing to do with jackets? The thought gnawed at me. I turned to Raymond Whitaker, our neighbor, who happened to have a security camera that overlooked a slice of our driveway. I approached Raymond with a fabricated concern, told him I thought someone might have been prowling around the yard. He agreed to let me check the footage, not expecting anything of interest. But what I saw in the recording from 3 mornings prior told a story no one expected. At exactly 9:52 a.m., Damien pulled up in a plain-looking sedan. With the same smug swagger he flaunted at every family gathering, he sauntered up to my front door like he owned the place. Minutes later, the camera caught something surreal. Damien leaning out of one of my windows, not with a jacket, but wearing one of my black shirts. He raised a glass, half full, as if to toast the camera. Then he slipped back inside like he belonged there. He didn't leave until 12:47 p.m., nearly 3 hours later. And when he did, the jacket Evelyn had mentioned was draped over his arm. His walk was cocky, satisfied. And just before driving off, he took a long swig from a bottle, my whiskey. Raymond stood there, clearly unsettled. "Well, guess that's your trespasser." I forced a thin smile. "Thanks, Raymond. I mean it." Inside, I was fuming. Damien hadn't just violated my trust, he'd turned it into some kind of twisted show. Drinking my liquor, wearing my clothes, acting like my home was a cheap motel he could check into at will. That evening, I confronted Evelyn with the footage. She watched it without blinking, face unreadable, lips pressed into a hard line. Then, unbelievably, she laughed. "You're being absurd," she said, rolling her eyes. "Seriously. Paranoia much?" I stared at her, caught between disbelief and blazing anger. "If you were actually present," she said coldly, "Damien wouldn't have to be the one handling everything around here." "Handling what exactly? The bedroom? For 3 hours?" She arched a brow. "You can believe whatever fantasy makes you feel better. You've never really trusted me. You're always off chasing your career while I sit here forgotten." And then she dropped the final blow, the one that confirmed everything. "Damien sees me. Maybe that's all I ever needed." There it was, her open admission. She wasn't denying it. She welcomed his attention. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I didn't. I just looked her in the eye and told her I was done pretending. The truth was coming out, whether she liked it or not. I've always been a facts-first kind of guy. Emotions settle. Evidence doesn't lie. Once the red haze faded, I knew I couldn't act without proof that no one could dispute. That's when I hired Cardona, a private investigator, recommended by a friend who'd been through a divorce of his own. Cardona was blunt. "No guarantees," he told me, "but if they're sneaking around, I'll find out." It took less than a week. What he delivered was a gut punch, photo after photo, everyone worse than the last. Turns out, Evelyn and Damien had a routine, a no-frills motel 10 miles out of town. Mornings and early afternoons were their window. The images didn't leave room for doubt. Damien's borrowed sedan parked discreetly outside, Evelyn in sunglasses arriving solo, heading to room 108. Damien greeting her at the door like he'd been counting the seconds. The timestamps were damning. They spent over 2 hours there every time. I remember gripping the edge of my chair so tightly I thought the wood would splinter. But I didn't feel heartbreak. I felt vengeance. Cold, sharpened rage. I wasn't just betrayed. I was made a fool of. My wife. And Damien, arrogant, smirking Damien, acting like he'd scored some victory. That same night I called Tessa, my sister, the only family member I fully trusted. I told her I needed her help. A family dinner. No kids. Everyone had to be there. She didn't ask questions, just agreed. We made arrangements to have the children, hers and mine, stay at our parents' place. They didn't need to be part of what was about to happen. Tessa's dining room was warm, filled with familiar smells and childhood memories, but that night it felt like a courtroom. My parents looked confused, clearly wondering why they'd suddenly become babysitters. Aunts and uncles filled the seats, the atmosphere thick with unspoken questions. And then Evelyn arrived. Alone. A few minutes later, Damien showed up too, separately. Which was strange, considering how meticulously they usually kept up appearances at gatherings like these. Damien came in last, wearing a smug grin like it was part of his wardrobe. Evelyn arrived draped in a form-fitting midnight black gown that clung to her body like silk on glass, trimming a decade off her age. She settled into the seat next to mine with the elegance of a queen, granting me only a fleeting, sideways glance, cold and detached. The small talk buzzed like a dull, irritating hum, each word scraping across my nerves. A thick tension pressed down on the room, and my father kept casting sharp, probing glances in my direction, suspicion darkening the lines on his forehead. I said nothing, biding my time until the meal arrived. Roast beef with potatoes, steam rising from our plates like a signal. My sister's eyes kept flicking toward me, anxious and uncertain. I couldn't delay any longer. I lifted my fork and rapped it against my wine glass, a piercing note that sliced through the murmur of conversation. "I need everyone's attention," I said, my voice dry but filled with fire beneath the surface. "Thanks for coming tonight. This isn't just about dinner. It's about the truth." I reached beneath the table, retrieved a manila envelope, and extracted a stack of photos. I spread them out across the polished table, like playing cards in a game no one wanted to win. Gasps rippled around the room. The images left no room for denial. Clearly time-stamped photos of Evelyn and Damien entering and exiting a motel during the day, again and again. My mother clutched her face, pale and trembling. My father's face drained of color. Aunt Sophia's whisper broke the silence like a crack in glass. "Dear God." Evelyn's reaction was immediate, icy and indignant. Arms crossed, she sneered. "Really, Adrian? Digging through my personal life?" I met her stare, heat rising behind my words. "Personal life?" "You're having an affair with my uncle," I said, the words landing like hammer strikes. Damien's expression hardened as he cleared his throat. "So you hired a private investigator? That's sick," he said. "You've always been obsessed with control." My father pushed himself up slowly, his voice cracking. "Evelyn? Damien? Is this true? Are you involved?" Evelyn's gaze snapped toward him, her voice razor-sharp. "And if we are?" She turned her bitterness on me. "Adrian's never around. He buries himself in work, in money. He stopped caring. I was just something pretty to hang on his arm. Maybe if he'd treated me like a person, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere." She stabbed her words like knives. "Maybe if you'd been a real husband, none of this would have happened." The air cracked with tension. My mother began to sob quietly, her pain radiating through every breath. Damien slammed his hand on the table, the silverware leaping. "Fine. You want honesty? We've been together for more than 6 months. It didn't start this way," he added, his finger aimed at me. "But you pushed her away. You're the reason this happened." I jumped to my feet, fists clenched. "You drink my whiskey, sleep in my house, wear my clothes, and now you're sleeping with my wife? You disgust me." Damien let out a bitter chuckle. "You never had the guts to say any of this to my face. You always shriveled up around me. Just talk, no action." "Shut the hell up!" I shouted and lunged forward. The table buckled under the sudden force, plates clattering. My father tried to restrain me, but I tore free, grabbed Damien by the collar, and drove a fist into his jaw. The impact jarred me to my core, violent, unplanned, but wholly satisfying. Chaos erupted. Damien's retaliatory slap stung more from humiliation than pain. My jaw snapped shut, teeth colliding. And then all hell broke loose. We crashed into the table, flipping it sideways. The roast tumbled to the floor. Wine spilled like blood across the tiles. Glass shattered. Family members shrieked and scattered. My mother's sobs grew louder, aching and relentless. My father shouted at us to stop, his voice drowned out by the fury. Damien and I were entangled in a raw, feral fight. Evelyn sprang from her seat, wild with rage. "You're both maniacs! I'm calling the police!" She ripped her phone from her purse. Damien, lip bleeding, broke from my grip and slapped me again. this time with smug intent. Rage and humiliation collided in my chest. I grabbed his shirt and rammed him into the wall, deaf to my father's pleading hands clawing at my shoulders. Then Evelyn joined the fray, absurdly striking me in the lower back before smacking my backside like a referee in a bar brawl. "Get off him!" she screamed. "Damien is 10 times the man you'll ever be, you pathetic loser!" I spun to face her, stunned, and in that instant, Damien shoved me. We crashed into the sideboard, obliterating Tessa's beloved china collection. Porcelain exploded, shards skidded across the hardwood. "Stop this!" my father bellowed, his voice torn by heartbreak and disbelief. Evelyn, shrieking about being assaulted, raised her phone again, threatening to call the police. Damien stood there, bloodied and breathless, puffing himself up as if he'd won. "This isn't the end," he snarled. "You think this makes you better than me? You're delusional." His glare burned into me before he spat on the floor near my feet. Panting, chest heaving, I took a step back. Tessa slipped between us, trying to break the madness. Damien yanked his coat off a chair and shot me one last scornful look before storming toward the door. Evelyn followed on his heels, still brimming with fury. "You want a war? You've got it. I'll see you in court, you twisted control freak." And with a final slam of the front door, they were gone. The silence that followed felt like a vice around my chest. The dining room was a battlefield, chairs overturned, wine staining the carpet in dark, spreading blotches, its sharp odor clinging to the air. My mother sobbed uncontrollably, her cries slicing through the heavy stillness. My father had collapsed back into his chair, his hands visibly shaking, his face a twisted mix of rage and humiliation. I stood in the wreckage, blood trickling from a split lip, caught in the sick gravity between the thrill of a brutal triumph and the searing hatred still burning in my gut. After that catastrophic night, Evelyn disappeared from our lives. She wouldn't answer my calls. Occasionally, I'd receive a cryptic, threatening message. "Hope it was worth the humiliation," one read. "You'll regret it. This isn't over." Each note deepened the acid in my chest, driving me further into vengeful fantasies. Damien, meanwhile, seemed to vanish off the face of the earth. The gossip varied wildly. Some claimed he was crashing on friends' couches. Others said he was hiding in seedy motels, trying to escape the wreckage. Then, without warning, Evelyn returned like an unwelcome ghost. I saw her car pull into our driveway from the living room window. Same defiant stance, same arrogant air, like nothing had changed. She stepped out like she still belonged. I met her at the threshold, blocking her path. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice raw from all the screaming that had come before. She glanced me over with a smirk, full of venomous charm. "Let me in," she said sweetly. "Unless you want me to start yelling that you're assaulting me." My jaw locked. I fought the urge to explode. With clenched teeth, I stepped aside. She walked in like a queen reclaiming her palace, her eyes scanning every detail with possessive ease. Then she turned toward me, flicking her hair over her shoulder like punctuation. "We need to talk," she said, her voice coated in ice. "Then talk," I muttered, not moving. She raised her chin with that infuriating, calculated grace. "I'm pregnant. It's Damien's." Time split apart like shattered glass. My thoughts scattered. Pregnant? With his child? I wanted to scream no, to deny it. But the motel photos I'd seen told a story I couldn't unsee. I forced my voice not to crack. "So what am I supposed to do with that information?" Her lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You're going to claim it. When the baby comes, we'll say it's yours." I stared at her like she'd grown a second head. "You want me to pretend? To raise his child as my own? Are you insane?" She shrugged, utterly unbothered. "Better than letting this go public. You say no, and I ruin you. I'll say you neglected me, abused me, pushed me into Damien's arms." A cold dread wrapped around my spine. You'd make that up? Her smile turned cruel. Make it up? I'll call it survival. I'm not losing everything because you two let your egos explode. She stepped forward, her eyes sharp with warning. Do this my way, and no one gets hurt. You look noble. I keep my reputation clean. My hands clenched at my sides. Fury surged. No, I growled. No way in hell. Her face turned to stone. She jabbed a finger hard against my chest. Then I'll destroy you. I'll take the house, the kids, everything. I swear on my life. I let out a dry, bitter laugh. Go ahead and try. I've got proof. Photos, private investigator reports, security footage from that night at Tessa. A judge will know who's really at fault. She cursed viciously, spun on her heel, and stormed out. You'll regret this, she spat before slamming the door behind her. I stood frozen, heart hammering, body trembling with a twisted satisfaction laced with dread. I didn't hesitate. I called Jocelyn Carter, my attorney, known for turning divorces into blood sport. I laid everything out, the evidence, the eyewitnesses, the footage. Her verdict was swift and confident. We had more than enough for a fault-based divorce. In fact, she believed we had a real shot at winning full custody, considering Evelyn's increasing volatility. But her threats lingered like smoke. Evelyn could spin lies, twist reality into something poisonous. I had never hurt her, but sometimes the courts lean toward mothers no matter what. Jocelyn warned me to stay composed, keep my distance, and let the legal process do its work. But I wanted more than justice. I wanted revenge. I wanted Damien to feel the shame, the humiliation, the powerlessness he had dumped onto me in front of my family. The image still haunted me. Him wearing my clothes, sipping my whiskey, striking me in my own home. So I set a trap. Late at night, I used a burner phone to send a message, pretending to be Evelyn, reaching out from a new number. Damien, it's me. I'm scared. I need help. I'm at the old rest stop off Highway 12. Please, I don't know where else to go. Then I waited. Eventually, the phone rang. It was him. I answered, distorting my voice with shaky, panicked breaths. Damien, please. I'm bleeding. I think I'm losing the baby. He gasped in panic. Stay there. I'm on my way. I ended the call with a satisfied smile. Perfect. He'd taken the hook. By midnight, I was already stationed, crouched behind the wreckage of a rotting vending hut near a forgotten highway pull-off. The night was pitch black, the only light coming from a flickering street lamp, its glow trembling over the cracked asphalt. My black pickup was still, engine off, tension coiling in my chest like a spring. The adrenaline was molten, coursing through me like lava. Around 12:30, twin headlights cut through the gloom. Damien's battered old sedan crawled into view, tires crunching over broken glass. He eased to a halt beneath the wavering light. I watched him climb out, scanning the shadows, clearly expecting Evelyn. That was my cue. I didn't hide. I emerged, walking directly toward him, boots striking the pavement with deliberate force, making sure every step landed heavy in his ears. He froze, eyes widening as he saw me. Adrian? Evelyn's not coming, I said, my voice like ice. This is just you and me. His expression morphed, first confusion, then fury. You set me up. You conniving bastard, he started, but I was already moving. I seized him by the collar and slammed him hard into the side of his car. The door caved slightly with the impact, and he let out a strangled breath. You want my life so badly? You're wearing my damn jacket now? I growled. Drinking from my bar? Sleeping in my bed with my wife? Let's see how it feels when the tables turn. He shoved at me, but my rage was a furnace, burning away hesitation. Every moment of betrayal sharpened my reflexes. I slapped him, clean, loud, a physical echo of the disgrace he brought into my home. He staggered, stunned. You've lost your mind, he barked, voice cracking. She came to me. You were never there. You just flashed your cash around and treated her like she was some prize. She needed someone who gave a damn, he went on. You drove her away. This is on you. I struck again, harder this time. Don't you dare blame me, I hissed. You swaggered into my life, drank my liquor, wore my clothes, crawled into my bed, and you think I'm going to just walk away? You're nothing but a leech. He tried to retreat, but I shoved him again, harder, trapping his foot with mine so he couldn't turn. I pulled a folding knife from my coat and snapped it open. His eyes went round with fear. Oh God, Adrian, don't, man, just think this through. I let out a cold, sharp laugh, flashing the blade close to his face. Kill you? That'd be too easy. I released him and crouched by his front tire. Without pause, I drove the knife into the rubber and sliced a deep gash. Air hissed out in a long exhale. He gasped. What the hell are you doing? I didn't answer. I moved to the back tire and did the same. The car slumped, tilted like a broken limb. He lunged at me, but I rose with the knife still open, ready. Don't, I warned. I've got more than tire slashes in me. He stumbled back, hands raised, eyes darting. All right, he said quickly. I get it. We crossed a line. He looked frantic, trying to justify. She said you didn't care anymore, that you iced her out, treated her like a possession, said you were cold. I believed her. She made me think you had it coming. You believed her? I snapped, fury surging again. So that gives you permission to steal everything I've built? To parade around in my skin like it fits you? His chest heaved, breath ragged. So what now? You're just going to abandon me out here? Yeah. I wedged the blade beneath the hood latch, popped it open, and started tearing, hoses, wires, anything I could wreck. The hood slammed shut with a loud clang. There, now you're stuck. He spun, wild-eyed, scanning the empty stretch of road. You can't leave me out here. It's miles to the nearest anything. That's the whole idea, I said, my grin bitter. Plenty of time to reflect on what it's like when your world burns. I tossed his phone into the brush. He lunged, yelling, but it was gone. Start walking, I told him. Maybe some trucker with a conscience will give you a lift. His face twisted in fury and panic. Screw you, Adrian. You think you're better than me? You're not. You're probably worse. I smirked as I stepped away. Yeah, I said. I am worse, when I need to be. Then I turned my back on him, climbed into my truck, and pulled onto the road. I didn't glance in the mirror. Damien stood beneath the broken light, stranded, his car wrecked, and his life in pieces. Not a flicker of guilt touched me. Let him rot. What followed happened fast. My lawyer filed the divorce paperwork, citing Evelyn's infidelity. She pushed back, tried to smear me, claimed I was cold, controlling, that I'd shut her out, even said I was dangerous. The damning materials, snapshots, audio clips, and witness statements from that disastrous family dinner painted her as both vain and unfaithful. After the heated exchange late that night, Damien disappeared without warning, leaving me alone to pick up the shattered pieces. Rumors quickly took root. Some claimed he was hiding out, nursing his humiliation, while others insisted he was running from the disgrace. When we eventually stood in front of the judge, the momentum clearly swung my way. Evelyn's own confession that Damien had fathered the child she was carrying sealed the depth of her betrayal beyond question. My attorney didn't pull any punches, asserting that Evelyn lacked the moral foundation necessary to be granted primary custody. The court sided with us. I was awarded full custody of all 4 children, while Evelyn was relegated to scheduled visitations, which she frequently ignored. She eventually relocated to a dingy apartment on the outskirts of the city, far removed from the suburban image she had once flaunted like a trophy. From time to time, she would appear at my front door, resentful, desperate. Adrian, she'd spit through clenched teeth. You ruined everything. Damien left me alone with a baby I can't even care for. Then, like clockwork, the old haughtiness would return. I hope you're happy. She'd sometimes throw in a bitter remark about our kids growing up in a broken household. I'd keep my composure, calmly reminding her that we had another court date for child support coming up, and that anything else should be said through our legal counsel. My focus stayed locked on the kids, especially Lila. She was 5 now, just old enough to feel the strain, to sense how the air changed whenever her mother's name was mentioned. As the divorce proceedings edged toward finality, a dark thought began to fester in my mind. Lila had been conceived during the same period when Evelyn's behavior started to shift dramatically. A haunting possibility began to take root. Was it possible Lila wasn't mine? I couldn't stop replaying the moment I first saw that innocent little drawing she made, the one that started everything, and how Evelyn had laughed off my suspicion. Eventually, I confided my worry to my lawyer, Jocelyn. She said a paternity test was within reach if I needed closure, but warned that a negative result could complicate our custody arrangements. Still, I couldn't let the thought rest. I needed certainty, no matter the consequences. I told Lila we were going in for a routine health check. At the clinic, cheek swabs were taken from the both of us. They said the results would arrive by mail within 2 weeks. I drifted through those days in a haze, part of me craving reassurance, the other dreading the truth the envelope might contain. Meanwhile, Evelyn was approaching the end of her pregnancy. She gave birth to a boy in a rundown hospital not far from her apartment. Damien never resurfaced, never acknowledged the baby. In a final desperate move, Evelyn asked if I would adopt him, hoping, perhaps, to avoid the stigma of single motherhood once more. My refusal was immediate and absolute. Weeks slipped by. I settled deeper into my new life, raising 4 kids on my own while keeping up with demands at the construction firm. At first, the older boys were lost and uncertain, but they gradually began to understand and supported me fully. Lila continued to draw. Her sketches were bright and joyful, always featuring me and her siblings, but never her mother. A therapist told me Lila was likely working through her feelings, trying to make sense of her mother's absence through her art. Then, the letter arrived. I opened it in my home office, hands trembling. The moment I saw the results, everything inside me stopped. I couldn't breathe. 0%. The test confirmed it. I wasn't Lila's biological father. Someone else had brought her into this world. I reread the page, searching for an error, something to dispute. But the data was clear. It was final, undeniable. An icy, suffocating certainty settled over me. Had Damien been her father all along? Had the affair started even earlier than I thought? Or was there another man entirely, someone I never saw, never even suspected, lurking in the shadows of our marriage? My chest ached with the weight of it all, betrayal layered upon betrayal. Looking back, I realized the truth was simple, even if it was unbearable. The marriage I had believed in, the family I had fought for, was nothing more than a facade, carefully built and utterly false. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you. She was a woman who had it all: a loving husband, grateful children, a cozy home, stability, and the respect of those around her. Everything millions dream of. But inside her, a silence was growing, an expanding emptiness that neither affection, recognition, nor years of marriage could fill. Until one day, she returned a gaze that lingered a little longer than usual. And that single moment, almost imperceptible, began to unravel an entire universe, carefully built, tenderly preserved, seemingly unshakable. What began as a spark of desire turned into a chain reaction. Secret meetings, lies skillfully woven into everyday life, all for the sake of feeling alive again. But every step toward freedom came at a cost. Love, trust, reputation, family, everything was on the brink of vanishing. One wrong choice, one passion, and consequences that couldn't be hidden from, even in the darkest corners of the soul. Then came the day when the doors started closing. The house stopped feeling like home. Her husband was no longer a pillar of strength. Her children, no longer allies. All that remained was the truth. And now, she's left with one question. Is it possible to reclaim even a fragment of what was lost, when all that's left are the shattered pieces of trust and the shadow of a former life? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now, let's get started. What is this emptiness I carry inside? I have a husband who, by all accounts, is extraordinary. He cherishes me deeply, with unwavering devotion. And yes, my love for him is real. It's strong and has stood the test of many years. He is the anchor of our family, steady, dependable, and always present. Our daughters absolutely adore him. He's gentle, generous, and the kind of man everyone turns to when something needs fixing, especially anything with wires or screens. The neighbors treat him like a community handyman. He's never given me a reason to doubt his loyalty. He's not the sort to flirt or stray. In the bedroom, Daniel goes out of his way to make sure I'm fulfilled. If I don't reach the peak, he takes it personally. Compared to the men before him, he stands out, hands down the best I've known. But lately, I've come to a realization. My views on passion and desire are grounded in memories from decades ago. For most of our marriage, I never truly considered being with anyone else, until Ryan appeared. As I approached 45 and watched our kids inch toward independence, a new longing crept in. I started wanting confirmation from someone who wasn't Daniel, that I was still attractive, still someone to be desired. Daniel often tells me that I've grown even more beautiful with age, but my reflection paints a different picture. My breasts have lost their youthful perk. Fine lines are beginning to sketch themselves across my face. I find myself retouching my hair to chase away the grays more frequently. That curvy, tight backside I used to flaunt with pride, it's beginning to lose its shape. I can still command attention when I dress just right and put on a bit of glam. But for how much longer? More and more my imagination wandered. What would it feel like to be craved by another man? I began to quietly fantasize about meeting someone who didn't know my history, who saw me with fresh eyes. Even in intimate moments with Daniel, I'd catch my thoughts drifting toward movie stars, younger men at work, or that intriguing new employee who lit something inside me. I slowly revamped my wardrobe, skirts with daring hems, push-up bras, blouses that revealed just a hint more. The change didn't go unnoticed. People commented, and Ryan, always a harmless flirt, suddenly became magnetic. He had joked around before, but I'd never thought much of it. That changed one day when I pushed the boundary a little too far. Something in me was feeling bold, mischievous. When we found ourselves alone, I flirted. Not playfully, but suggestively. At first, I thought I was just teasing. But Ryan didn't treat it as a game. He saw right through the mask I wore. Without a word, he locked my office door. Everything I'd buried inside came rushing to the surface. I didn't pause. I didn't resist. Desire took control. We tore at each other's clothes. I shoved everything off my desk. It was wild, frenzied, over in a blur. Then came the silence. Somehow, we went unnoticed. We threw our clothes back on. He left. I remained, stunned, trying to restore order to the room and to myself. I washed off my makeup, sprayed to get rid of the smell of intimacy that hung in the air, and tried to calm my racing heart. I was trembling, not from fear, but from excitement. It took almost an hour before I felt collected enough to get back to work. What I thought was a one-off quickly turned into something more. We both wanted to try something else. Well aware of the danger, we planned a second meeting, this time with more caution. Once again, we managed to escape detection. but stolen moments behind closed doors stopped feeling like enough. Ryan proposed something daring, 2 weeks away on a cruise, just the two of us, in a place where no one knew our names. I wrestled with the idea, trying to decide how to justify such a trip to Daniel. Eventually, I crafted a semi-truth. I needed space, time alone to reconnect with who I was before I became just wife and mom. I'd pitch it as a soul-searching retreat, to think, to rediscover, to remember the vibrant woman I once was. I'd suggest Daniel take the same chance to do whatever he needed. After 2 decades of monogamy, maybe he'd appreciate the gesture. But honestly, I don't think Daniel would seek out another woman. He's too loyal, too rooted. He might sulk a bit, wait patiently for my return, and I'd swear to never leave again. He's the kind of man who forgives more than most would, because he values our life together, our children, and the future we planned. And he knows a divorce would cost him dearly, emotionally and financially. That's why I don't believe he'll walk away. To me, this is a personal awakening, a kind of emotional pilgrimage. I fully intend to come back to him, renewed, whole, and ready to pour my love into him again. I'll make it up to him in every way I can. Hopefully, 2 weeks of uninhibited freedom will sate my craving for novelty and help me bring closure to whatever this is with Ryan, at least for now. But if that isn't enough, then we'll need a new strategy. I'll have to distance myself from Ryan for a while, shift my focus back to Daniel, back to our family. I'm not about to throw away my marriage, my children, or the future I've built with Daniel. We'll need to tread carefully. All I need now is the right moment, a quiet time, when Daniel is relaxed and open, to tell him what I've planned. That evening, Luna and I made love, if you could call it that. Something about the way it unfolded felt off. She said all the right things, made all the usual sounds, but it lacked sincerity. Her climax seemed like a performance, barely believable. Still, she managed to bring me to the finish line. That, it seemed, was her only real goal. We lay there afterward, catching our breath. That's when she finally said the thing I knew was coming. "Daniel, you know I love you, right?" And there it was. I'd sensed this moment approaching for weeks. Thankfully, I was ready. I turned toward her, keeping my expression soft, and delivered the response I knew she needed. "Of course I do, sweetheart. And I know you love me too. Don't you?" "Of course, darling. If there were ever something truly important to me, you'd be there for me, wouldn't you?" "Of course. Just tell me. What is it?" As if it wasn't already clear. "What I'm asking for is everything. My sense of self, my purpose, my role as a wife and a mother. It all feels like it needs reevaluation. And the only way I can honestly begin that process is to step away for a bit. Just a temporary break from being a wife and a mother. Maybe even some distance from me would be healthy for all of you. I believe I'll return with clarity, with energy, and with a renewed commitment to this family. I have this deep longing to find myself again." "Hold on. What are you doing?" I moved down the hallway, calling out toward the bedrooms. "Girls, it's time. Get your things together and meet me in the kitchen." "We're already up, Dad. Be right there." "Daniel? What's going on? Why are the girls coming down with their bags?" "There's no need to unpack everything just yet. You and I still have a lot to discuss. We'll have time for that later. But Daniel, they're part of this too. This family you're saying you want to rebuild. They're not little kids anymore. They deserve to know what's happening. All of us need to sit down, talk this through, and decide what comes next, as a unit." Even though Luna had asked for privacy, I went into the kitchen and poured myself a cup of strong, aromatic coffee. I didn't offer her any. I could see the confidence starting to slip from her face. "Daniel, please, you're making this out to be something it's not. You want space? Fine. Go ahead. Run off with Ryan. We all know what's been happening." Her expression drained of color. "Ryan? Why are you even bringing him into this? He's just someone I work with. I'm trying to sort things out. You mean sort out how to sleep with him without sneaking around? Keep your options open between him and me while leaving the girls stuck in the middle? Yeah, we're aware. You're aware? What are you accusing me of? All I said was I needed a little space, a temporary break from the pressure of being a wife and a mother. Well, here's your space. It's called divorce. Not a test run, not some extended vacation from your responsibilities. It's final. Daniel, be serious. This is an extreme reaction. I never said anything about leaving permanently, just until the end of September. Girls, why are your bags packed? Girls, I'm so sorry, she added in a rush. I couldn't wait much longer. Daniel, please, talk to them for a second while I go grab a few of my things. I turned and started up the stairs, but I could still hear voices drifting up from the kitchen. Girls, Luna's voice was soft, almost pleading. Your father's misunderstanding what I meant. Amelia was quick to reply. Then tell the truth, Mom. We've known for a while what's really been happening with you and your boyfriend. Luna tried to deflect. I don't know what you're talking about. Ella jumped in. We're talking about those lunch meetings you always had on Wednesdays. At first they were innocent. Then they became quick bites. Now it's suddenly a 2-week cruise with Dodger Ryan. Luna's face was frozen in disbelief. That's not true. You don't have any evidence. I haven't crossed any lines. Ryan's just someone I occasionally meet for lunch. Amelia stepped forward. Is that so? The first time you went to his executive suite for your so-called lunch, your office called the house looking for you. You were gone way longer than an hour. Dad had no idea where you were. And later that evening when he came to pick you up, you claimed you were with your boss. That wasn't a lie. I was with Mr. Archer. The secretary must have made a mistake. She's not exactly dependable. Oh, really? Amelia replied. And when exactly did Ryan become your boss at the executive suite in that hotel? That's the point where Dad brought in a private investigator, Ella added. We've seen the footage. We've seen the photos. It's true, Amelia said flatly. And for the record, he's not even attractive, not next to Dad. You became an unfaithful wife in your 40s. You don't speak to your mother like that, Luna snapped. And how could you do what you did to us? Amelia shot back. How could you choose that over being the mom we needed? Defensive now, Luna lashed out. If your father had his suspicions, he should have confronted me. He should have stopped me. Clearly, it didn't bother him enough. I think it was Amelia who replied, Mom, that ring on your finger means Dad shouldn't have to stop you. It means you swore, before all of us, to forsake every other person. Dad said even if he'd stopped you this time, it wouldn't have mattered. Next time you'd just get better at hiding it. Well, Luna muttered, he should have said something. If it hurt him that much, he should have told me. This only confirms how little it matters to him whether someone else gives me a bit of innocent attention. I can't wrap my head around why he suddenly turned so territorial. And no, Mom, he didn't say a word to you, because he was stalling. His legal and financial advisors were hard at work making sure you wouldn't be able to dig your claws into his assets during what he assumed would be a routine separation. He wanted to make absolutely sure that neither money nor the fear of losing it would sway his choice about staying in the relationship. A few weeks later, he brought us all together and laid everything out. Then he played a video. What we saw and heard in that footage made our stomachs churn. Ella and I immediately assured him he had our full support. The priest explained that the current divorce system tends to lean in favor of the wife, even in cases where she's the one who's broken the marriage vows. Like I said, his attorney and accountant had been subtly working to cut back your spending for some time. I'd be willing to bet you didn't notice that. Thanks to all this, Ella's and my college funds are now completely protected. Shocking, isn't it? I imagine it cost him a fortune. Where'd he get that kind of cash? Ah, now I get it. He knew I'd never ask him to touch our college money. That's icy, Heartless, really. And you're probably convinced that Ella and I conspired with Dad to betray you. But that's not what happened. No, Mom. You and your new flame schemed behind our backs. Whether you convinced yourselves your fling was harmless, or you purposely sabotaged this family while cozying up to your boyfriend and pocketing a chunk of Dad's cash, that's on you. We were simply trying to shield ourselves, and trust me, that wasn't a small task. Ella cracked a joke, and we both laughed. Small woman, colossal disaster. Okay, girls, I said as I came down the stairs, bags in hand. Luna looked like she'd seen a ghost. Daniel, can't we just sit down and talk? Please. I know I screwed up. I don't want us to break up. I never wanted a divorce. I'll call Ryan right now and end it. I'll cut all ties, I swear. I never meant to leave you or run off with him forever. Oh, honey, that ship's long gone, I replied. And speaking of ships, I hear you and Ryan already booked a 2-week cruise. My advice? Enjoy it while you can, because once you're back, things are going to get a whole lot harder. What do you mean? Well, first of all, you'll be handling everything around here on your own. The girls and I are moving out. We've got a new place lined up. Dad! Did we get the one with the hot tub? Please tell me we did. As of 2 days ago, it was still available, I told them. We might have to crash in a hotel for a bit, but it looks like it'll be ours soon enough. The girls squealed in delight. And second, I added, you won't be enjoying this house alone for long. Ryan's going to need somewhere to stay. According to Molly, his current residence won't be his much longer. Wait, Molly? You talked to Ryan's wife? Yep. She's completely unfazed by your little vacation. But here's the twist. Ryan wasn't exactly truthful with her. He claimed he was headed to California for a professional internship. But I thought their divorce was almost final. Interesting you bring that up. When I met Molly nearly 2 months ago, she hadn't heard a word about any divorce proceedings. She's been quietly waiting for you two to go public so she could take action. I gave her a quick call just now while I was upstairs. Sounds like Ryan's being kicked out as we speak. She mentioned her older brother was coming over to help handle the garbage. He told me she was okay with it, that she agreed to the divorce and didn't care that we were taking this trip. He also told you he had a 2-week internship, right? Well, about a week ago, Molly checked in with his boss, Mr. Archer. You know, your boss too? Oh God. Exactly. Which brings me to the third thing. When you two return from your romantic getaway, neither of you will be going back to work. Your employer was just waiting for my go-ahead. He can't do that. We're valuable employees. You're workers who broke company policy by having a personal affair during business hours. Molly and I had enough evidence to make a legal case, and your boss was more than happy to dodge a lawsuit by firing you both and hiring replacements. This isn't how any of this was supposed to turn out, Luna cried. No, it's not. You were supposed to honor your vows, to your husband, to your kids. We were meant to grow old side by side, retire in peace, and spoil our grandkids together someday. Instead, you threw it all away for a fling, and now you're left with less money, no family, and a reputation that's about to take a serious hit. Daniel, I can't believe you're doing this. I thought you loved me. What else are you planning to do to hurt me? Glad you brought that up. If you try to drag out this divorce, I'll be sending a very curated compilation of your little escapades with Ryan to your parents, your friends, your colleagues, your neighbors, and maybe even a few less than reputable websites. Ryan's so-called charm wasn't exactly winning him any admirers. Let's be honest, it just wasn't enough. Daniel, believe me when I say this, I always came back. I just needed a breather, some time to clear my head and be alone. Give it a few more weeks, and everything would have settled back into place. But now, you're treating me like I've committed some unforgivable sin. After all we've endured together? Doesn't our marriage buy me even a little compassion? I thought I earned a bit of grace, maybe even a chance to make things right. Or maybe not. You already had your chances, again and again. You just kept choosing Ryan over being present for your family. You ask what this marriage meant to me? Well, 3 months ago, it meant the world. But that's when it became clear. You didn't care about our relationship anymore. Not like you once did. And our kids? They weren't even a priority. Luna, what you did left a mark. It broke something in me. I was in such a dark place that, if not for our daughters, I might have done something irreversible. I thought about pretending, playing the part, acting like things were okay. But then I asked myself, what kind of message would that send to our girls? I decided instead to teach them, through my choices, how to demand respect. I almost went through with a standard divorce filing, but the idea of losing time with our kids was too much. When my attorney warned me that your betrayal didn't guarantee I'd keep custody, I got focused. I was going to make sure you and Ryan paid for what you did. And honestly, I think we've done a decent job of that. Now listen, Luna. You don't get to just take the kids. I'm their mother too. And if you try to make a move, the court will see it as abduction. Don't test me, I mean it. Maybe you're not entirely wrong, but my attorney and I agreed to hold off on legal steps until Ella is old enough to decide where she wants to live. Amelia already signed a sworn declaration. Sure, you could try to keep Ella by force, but that's going to blow up in your face. Isn't that right, Mom? You remember me, stubborn, reckless, always pushing back. Picture me skipping school, dabbling in bad decisions, spiraling just to prove a point. And if that doesn't shake things up, I'll say Ryan's been inappropriate. With your blessing, of course. So yeah, Luna, we're not bluffing. What about you? This isn't how I imagined things unfolding. I figured you'd be shaken by the separation, but that eventually you'd let me come back, like some prodigal husband. No real fallout, no deep scars. I never intended for this to end in divorce. I just wanted you to realize that my brief escape came at too steep a price. But now, I don't even know what's left to salvage. That's on you. Maybe you should start planning how to support yourself without a consistent paycheck. Sell the house. Take your half. If you're careful, it'll stretch until you find work. Luna. As Daniel and the girls walked out, the phone rang. Probably Ryan, looking for a bed and a warm place to crash. Tell him not to touch any of my stuff. Well, except for you. They left before I could say anything else. Hello? Luna, we're screwed. They just left. Damn it, this wasn't how you said it'd go. I should have known better than to believe your nonsense. Hey, you didn't exactly resist. You jumped me in your office. Sure, I was into it, but you were the one throwing sparks. What's the point of blaming each other now? We need to figure out how to protect our jobs, and maybe our marriages. Can I come over? Molly threw me out. I can't afford a hotel. I guess it's all falling apart now, but I need somewhere to stay tonight. Try to get some rest. Tomorrow, we'll need to start damage control at the office. Can you come get me? I don't have my keys, and I'm not dealing with Molly again tonight. That night, when it all came crashing down, was the last time we were all under the same roof. Before the court date even came around, Luna vanished. She sold the house almost overnight, took her share of the money, wiped out our joint accounts, probably just to spite me. I didn't lose sleep over it. Most of the real assets were already safely tucked away in the girls' college fund. My share of the house netted about 20 grand. We'd taken out a home equity loan years ago to build a deck and patio, so the final value wasn't stellar. I used my portion to rebuild the emergency savings I'd drained for tuition. With my job and no alimony on the table, I was doing well enough. In the end, Luna's choices pushed me to delay filing for divorce for a year, so I could cite abandonment. That way, she couldn't reappear later asking for money or custody. I had no interest in a reunion. Ryan, surprisingly, didn't bail. Word is, he found some low-paying gig and is living modestly on his own. Molly? She's engaged to some divorced neighbor, but keeping it slow. Who can blame her? Once burned. I've had to bite my tongue more times than I can count. She came out ahead, and maybe she earned that. Things between me and the girls have stabilized. They've moved on with their lives. Amelia's on track to graduate next year. Ella might finish in just 3, though she's also seriously considering joining the Marines. They stay in contact with their mom on Facebook, but they've honored my wish to keep those interactions separate from anything involving me. I've returned to my old job, and there's someone new, an old acquaintance, a teacher who's been through her own divorce. With my daughters grown and her son nearly off to college, we're talking about the possibility of her moving in. Marriage hasn't really come up, but we've committed to being there for each other. Strangely enough, my intimate life is the best it's ever been. She's on birth control, and we're still cautious. I'm not about to take risks. I've learned that much. Luna, my ex-wife, always seemed to understand that part of me. The girls keep in touch, but they've made it clear. Their father won't allow my name into any conversation, nor will he share anything about his own life. It's as if our 2 decades together never existed. I was loyal. I loved him. I worked hard to be both a good mother and a supportive partner. I pulled my weight financially and emotionally. My paychecks went toward the mortgage, the cars, the school expenses, everything. So I didn't feel wrong for draining what remained in our accounts after he cracked. And really, what was there left to preserve? At least he'd had the foresight to pay ahead for the girls' college. That was smart, even commendable. How could I argue with that? But I've never been someone who chases money. What I can't stop asking myself is, who was I, truly? After 20+ years of standing by him, did I deserve the storm that came crashing down because of 3 reckless months? They weren't cruel months. There was no betrayal of the heart, just bad decisions, plain and simple. Ryan was never some grand romantic prize. What made the affair feel exhilarating was the sheer recklessness of it. That feeling vanished the moment reality hit. Suddenly Ryan meant nothing. Then he had the gall to claim I owed him, that I'd destroyed his marriage. He wanted to move in. Imagine that. Why did I flee the city? Because I became the woman everyone whispered about, the cheater, the liar. And there was hard evidence. I felt exposed, like anyone could see straight through me. I didn't trust Daniel not to leak the video, to shame me even further. Practically overnight, he became Dr. Alcott again, calm, poised, unreadable. I left to get some clarity, to wait for the dust to settle. Deep down, I hoped Daniel might soften, that there was a chance, however small, for reconciliation. Now, I live somewhere in between the past and the future. My work is stable. I used to be in finance, explaining to frustrated clients why insurance hadn't covered what they thought it should. These days, I do something similar at a hospital, helping patients navigate their medical bills, explaining the confusing fine print of their coverage. Mr. Archer, my old boss, didn't sugarcoat things when he gave a reference. He was honest about my mistakes, but also about my strengths. My new supervisor took a risk in hiring me and made it clear that even a hint of unprofessional behavior would end it all. I live in a modest apartment now. I don't need much. My social life is nearly non-existent. I spend too much time on an online forum for women left behind after infidelity. Some of their stories make mine seem almost mild. But I haven't let myself go. I still look good. I still carry myself well. Daniel knows I was a good partner, a good mom. Can he really stomach the idea of diving into the chaotic world of dating at his age just to replace what we had? I think I'll wait. Maybe the girls will warm up to the idea of nudging him back toward me. He's in the process of finalizing the divorce. Me? I'm quietly hoping there's still a path back. I replay the good times often. A song, a smell, an old picture. It's all it takes to send me back. The pain it brings is hard to describe. I cry more than I'd ever admit out loud, and I can't believe Daniel doesn't feel that too, especially when he's with our daughters. How many of those memories include me? He must miss me, even if he doesn't want to. We were a part of each other's lives for too long to just erase that. Daniel, if even the smallest part of you still holds love for me, please hear this. If there's any piece of you that remembers who I was to you, who we were together, then I am begging. Give us another chance. I won't make the same mistake again. I was foolish to risk 20 years of shared life for something so shallow. I just hope you won't be equally foolish by refusing to see that one wrong turn doesn't mean we can't still find our way back. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.